Hey guys, John from the BusyCast. This is the first video in the Tactica series, and we have chosen to do Harlequins. Harlequins are quite relevant right now because they've just seen a mild resurgence with the release of the Deathwatch codex as well, because there was a starter box.
The Death Mask box.
Death Mask box, that's it. So figured it would be a nice one to start on. It's a fairly short codex compared to some of the other ones. So it's moderately easy for us to do, so we can work out any kinks.
Should be moderately easy.
Should be, yeah. But it's a fantastic time for you guys to suggest what you do and don't like, so that we can change it for future videos. This is a trial, as it were. So please let us know, because it makes a big difference, and some of the suggestions you guys come up with are really cool. So, Liam, or Liam.
Good.
Liam lost his beard. Sorry, this isn't Liam. This is Liam.
I didn't lose it. I know where it went.
Yeah, down the sink.
Went to the watery grave. But you said it was more handsome, so.
I do prefer him like that.
Yeah, well.
Hey ho. Right, we're starting with Troupe.
Yeah, well, we're going to do the units first. We're going to give them a rating. If you've seen the intro video, you know what this is about. They get given a rating out of 5 for 5 different categories. That gives them an overall rating. Once we've done all the units, we'll move on to weapons, maybe psychic powers. There's going to be more of a discussion and a chat, because I think it's harder to rate those as to how good they are. A lot of weapons are situational, depends what you throw it against. So we've started in the book with the very first entry, which is the Harlequin Troupe, which is your bog standard troops choice. They're called players and a troop master, which is kind of your sergeant and your marine equivalent, I suppose, to a point. So the 5 things we're rating them on, if you've seen the intro, you'll know, is maneuverability, firepower, assault, survivability and utility. And we have come up with a rating system out of 5 that we think is quite relevant and reflective of where they sit on that tree.
That's something we're sticking to make sure it's consistent. We're not just going, that sounds like a 4. It has a meaning.
We've kind of based it against a chart that you've sort of mostly written. And then that gives them a rating against other codices and their units as well. That's the idea behind it. We'll see if it works. So the first one we've got is the troop choice. At 95 points, they're not too expensive. First of all, we've got their maneuverability. Now, out of a rating of 5, I've given them a 2. Now, they are obviously bog standard infantry, they only move 6 inches, but they can run in the shooting phase, as a lot of infantry can, and they also have fleet. So I think it's slightly higher than a 1 because they have that little bit extra speed. You put them in certain formations, it's even quicker again. We'll go into that perhaps a bit later on. Their firepower, for them, this is surprising, I think, for some people. I've gone for a 3 for these. I think their firepower is better than people give them credit for. They have shuriken pistols across the board. If you know about shuriken pistols, they have a special rule called Bladestorm. It gives them kind of a pseudo rending, so there's a chance of a lot of AP2 firepower. They have a fusion pistol. A lot of people don't like it, 6-inch range, but it's a strength 8 AP1 melter pistol, and they have a neuro disruptor. The neuro disruptor, I think, is an incredible weapon for 10 points. It's Fleshbane and AP2 at 12-inch range. So your gargantuan creatures, your monstrous creatures, they're all getting wounded on 2s from your basic troop choice. And I'm pretty sure you can take as many as you want in that squad as long as you pay the 10 points per weapon. So that's a 3. I didn't quite give it a 4. They haven't got the range. They're all 12 to 6-inch range. If they had a 24-inch range for these weapons, it would be up at a 4 for a unit that's basically based on combat. So next up is where they excel, which is their assault. It is the best ability for the Harlequins, I think, personally, across the board. Their assault is exceptional. They have high initiative everywhere. You're talking basically a minimum of initiative 6. They have high weapon skill everywhere. Again, basically a minimum of 5, with the exception of 1 model, I think. So they're going to hit most things first and at a better dice roll. Some of their weapons, which we'll go on to, also means they can basically take on any target. They have weapons that auto wound, they have weapons that are strength 6 AP2, they have weapons that give them D3 Hammer of Wrath at strength 6. Typical Elder, they are basically spamming strength 6 everywhere. So yeah, they've got a 4 for that, because they hit you on the charge and you're talking 3 attacks base per player. That's 2 on their profile plus 1 for initial hand weapon. On the charge is 4. A squad of 5 is knocking out 20 attacks on the charge at least, at initiative 6 as well, which is quite important because they're normally going to hit before they start to be removed. Which goes on to the next one quite nicely, survivability. I was going to give it a 1 because they're only toughness 3 and they only have a 5-up save.
However,
but that 5-up save is an invulnerable save.
Yeah, which makes it a bit of a difference.
So with the exception of basically D weapons and a roll of a 6 and a couple of other like sort of special rules and powers, they get that against everything no matter what. So though it's a low save, they can always take it. Ignores cover doesn't matter, ignores armor doesn't matter, they always get invulnerable. So they've got slightly better than a 1 with a 2.
Yeah.
And utility is kind of the same. So they are only a basics troops choice. They're not a massive force multiplier, but they have special rules and they have quite a few. I say quite a few, I think there's 3 or 4 special rules. Yeah, so as standard, pretty much every unit in this book gains Fear, Fleet, Furious Charge and Hit and Run. Which is, again, when you mix that with their melee ability, it makes for a really nice hard-hitting unit. And should you survive combat, you can pull out and then charge in again, which is quite good. And Fear, I think
Everyone
it's
forgets
probably, it's quite underrated.
I never remembered Fear.
But slam
Weapon
these
skill
into,
down to 1 if they fail a leadership test.
slam these into Noel's Fire Warriors and such, because he spams Fire Warriors. And that's quite important. Obviously, Marines, not so much. Necrons, not so much, but yeah, I think that's quite good.
Yeah.
So as an overall rating, they've got a 13 out of 25. Now, obviously, they're just a basic troop choice. I think that's quite a good rating. You're going to struggle to find a troop choice that's much higher than sort of mid-range, I think, because they're just a utility-based, objective-grabbing troop choice.
Yeah.
And then most of them are mandatory, so they're going to be kind of average. But it's our only troops choice in the codex. I don't think it's a bad choice at all. I think it's quite good. And they can get quite a lot of decent upgrades. I mean, you see their profile there. It's not, it's not terrible at all.
Cool.
The Troop Master's got 2 wounds, which is nice.
Okay, moving on to the Death Jester.
Yeah, so the Harlequins Codex is a little bit unique. There's a couple out there like this. It has no HQ choice, hence we jump straight into troops, which means our next group is the Elites. They could have made one of these a HQ choice, I think, quite comfortably, but didn't. They made them Elites. It's up to Games Workshop, I guess they know what they're doing. So the first one we've got is the Death Jester. He is one of my favourite looking models they've ever produced. An evil looking laughing clown with a big gun. Who doesn't want that? His Maneuverability, he's got the same as the troop. He's 2. He's an infantry model. He has the same as them, fleet, and all that kind of stuff, Furious Charge, Hit and Run, etc. So his Maneuverability is exactly the same as the troop. And in fact, with the exception of the Solitaire, all the infantry-based models, their Maneuverability is going to be the same because they've got the same rules. His firepower is still at 3. I'll explain why. He has a Shrieker cannon, not a Shuriken cannon. He has a Shrieker cannon, and it is a decent weapon. You can fire it either as a Shuriken cannon. People that know Eldar know that's Strength 6, AP 5, Assault 3 with Blade Storm. Or he can use a single shot, which is his Shrieker round. It's 2 plus poison. And if you take a wound with that weapon, you place a small blast template, and that can cause more wounds. I think it's Strength 4, AP 4, something like that, and can pin. So that's quite nice. Again, Blade Storm's kind of pseudo-rending, so it's not a high AP, so I can't really give him much more than a 3, because you start to reach like melter gun, plasma gun territory when you're hitting 4s, and he's not guaranteed his AP 2. It's standard AP 5. So his firepower's good. And the special rule he gets with that, which I'll go on to, makes it quite nice, but it's still not game-breaking. His assault is a 3. He is probably the worst character, I think, in the book for assault. He's not designed to be. He still has high initiative, high weapon skill, furious charge. So he's good. He can deal, with some situations. He'd deal with guardsmen, etc. But he can't take any extra melee weapons. He is what he is. There's nothing fancy there. I pointed out when he's shooting as well. I've just spotted it over John's shoulder. He has precision shots, so he can pick targets out, which is important for his utility rule. Survivability is a 2, same as troops. He's only toughness 3. He only has 2 wounds, but he does have that 5-up invulnerable that he can take all the time. In certain formations, a certain formation, he becomes quite good survivability-wise, along with the Shadowseer and the Solitaire. And those of you who play Harlequins know what I'm on about. We'll go on to that later. His utility, that's up to a 3, because I think he's got quite a good force multiplier in here. He has a special rule called Death is Not Enough. Essentially, if he causes a casualty, the opponent takes a leadership check as if they've suffered 25% at -2. If they fail, the controlling player of the Death Jester chooses the direction they fall back in. So you can kind of make them fall back towards you to allow your players to charge, which is I think that's quite nice. If they're just out of range, or it's sort of turn 1, you can start bringing stuff towards you. You're relying on a lot of stuff to happen for this to work. But you can bring units towards you, making your charge. You can even bring them out the open, of course. We're not terrible at shooting with Harlequins. So yeah, the Death Jester, I think he's not a bad unit. He has the same special rules as the other unit. He's an independent character, so you can stick him in units. Makes him quite helpful. But he's not game breaking. He's just one of my favourite models. So he's got a 14 out of 25. He's 1 point higher than the troop, mostly based on, I think, it's his utility, because he gains the extra rule with his weapon for Zest is not enough.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a leadership 10 character, which is quite important in squads of troops, especially weak, squishy, die-fast troops, because you want to be taking those leadership checks as high as possible if you're going to keep taking casualties. My older jet bikes, I find quite quickly with their leadership 8, they want to flee off the board really fast.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a good character.
So moving on to Shadowseer.
Shadowseer is possibly their best character. His Maneuverability is no different. It's a 2. He's a troop. We've done that already.
Yeah.
His firepower, it's a 2. He has a Shuriken pistol as standard. He can take a Neurodisruptor. Neurodisruptors are very good, but his ballistic skill drops to 4. Troop Masters is 5. Death Jesters is 5. His is only 4 as a character, and it's only a 12-inch range, so it's not bad, but it's a 10-point upgrade for a model that I'm not sure you're going to want to use because he's got his hallucinogen grenades, which are probably going to fire instead. However, saying the hallucinogen grenades, they are nice. They are quite situational. They're an 18-inch range. The bonus is all you have to do is hit with it. It causes a pin-in check. So they're strength 1, AP nothing. They're not going to, kill anything anytime soon. But you pin units, suddenly you don't suffer Overwatch, which is quite nice. When you charge in with your players, and they do fight at initiative because they've got grenades, assault grenades. They don't get Overwatch smashed in their grid before they charge. So his firepower is average. It's not why you take him. His assault is up at a 4 with the players. He is actually quite a close combat beast for a character in the Eldar world. He has 4 attacks base, which includes his 2 melee weapons. He's initiative 7. His weapon skill 6. And he's strength 5 or 6 on the charge, but he has Fleshbane with his Mistave, so he's wounding things on 2s, including against, again, gargantuan creatures. Interestingly, if his Mistave was an AP3 weapon or an AP2 weapon, I'd put him up at a 5, because I think he's that good with that kind of combat profile. It's just his lack of AP that lets him down. His utility, though, is where he really shines. He's up at a 4. So for a measly 25 points, you push him up to Psycho Master level 2. The Phantasmy, I can't even say that.
Phantasmancy.
That's the one, Phantasmancy, thank you. Discipline is, I think, really nice. There's a couple of really cool rules.
Darren's used that a few times against, because Darren plays Harlequins. I've been trying to get him to play them on the channel, but he refuses because he says they're rubbish. They're not rubbish.
I think they're brilliant.
They're not rubbish. But they're difficult to play. I'm not going to deny that. But yeah, some of them are really cool. Like so, there was one. Is it Veil of Tears?
The primary para with the reducing your shooting range.
Yeah, you must roll 2d6, and your distance to shooting the target unit is 2d6 times 2, which means, the maximum you're going to be able to have is 24.
Yeah.
But that's you're chancing it then, aren't you? You could roll 2 1s and you get 4 inches or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why his utility is so high, because that Primaris alone, which he's obviously guaranteed of getting because it's a Primaris, especially if you go, Psychic Focus, I think it's a very strong power. Yeah, of course, you've got to get it off and you rely on your opponent rolling low. But even then, if you're on the other side of the board to a 60-inch, 70-inch weapon, like a Lehman Russ or a Riptide, you get that power off, they can't touch you, because the maximum they're going to get, as you say, is 24. So that's a very important rule. There's another one called, Dance of Shadows, gives units shrouded. That's good. Obviously, any improvement on cover save, you're probably going to be running these through cover anyway.
Are they slowed? They are slowed, aren't they? Are they?
We need to read, I think it's the flip belt rule, but I'm pretty sure that gives them move through cover.
92.
Please.
A model with the flip belt rule is not slowed by difficult terrain and does not suffer the penalty to its initiative when charging through difficult terrain. So yeah,
there is no reason not to put them in cover.
You are going to run through terrain.
Yeah.
You're going to pick that line.
You get the Shadow's power. Obviously, the Shadow's power isn't your Primaris, so you're hoping you roll for it.
Yeah.
You'll put them in cover because why wouldn't you?
Yes.
And you can end up with 2 up, 3 up cover saves as well, which isn't terrible. Dance of Shadows, obviously. The other bonus being that he can roll on the world famous telepathy. So you can end up with things like invisibility, psychic shriek, shrouding, etc. So, you know, those 2 powers alone, phantasmancy and telepathy, are both very good powers. They're good force multipliers, and they do offer them a lot of protection, which is where they do really fall down, because even their vehicles are quite weak. The models are toughness 3 across the board. They're only 5 up in vulnerable saves. The vehicles are mostly armor 10, so they need something, and I think he gives it to them. So I think he's a very important character. And I'd be very surprised if you saw many Harlequin lists, especially mono Harlequin lists, that didn't have at least multiple Shadowseers in.
And they're only 60 points, shouldn't you?
Yeah, 60 points base for that Veil of Tears alone is good.
Yeah. So what do we have for total for that?
He's a total of 14, so we've gone up 1 each time
14.
so far. Nice little pattern. Yeah, his firepower lets him down slightly. His manoeuvrability is still not that great. They are quick, obviously, like you said, they're not slowed by difficult, which is good, but they're not this guy. The Solitaire.
Very nice. Also, I just want to make a quick point on this. So we have a showcase video for... Ooh, beer does that
That's
to you.
nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can smell it.
It smells like salsa. No, we have a showcase video on Darren, who is an incredible painter.
Don't.
Don't feed his ego. You can tell him that, he won't listen. He thinks he's terrible and he's fantastic. Darren's army is Harlequin army. We have a showcase for them, and he's got a Solitaire in there. It's incredible. Absolutely amazing.
True.
Make sure you head over there and watch it just so that you see the models. That's the only reason you need to head over there, just to look at some...
Darren's boring. No, he's not.
Darren's a dick. No, he's not. Love you, Darren. But definitely check out that video because he's an incredible painter. So, Solitaire.
Pricey, 145 points.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. We've skipped from 60, 60 and 95 for a squad to 145
Yeah, he's
for
pricey.
one model.
Especially for a model that is a single character that doesn't have independent character. So he's on his own. 145 points on his own. Still only toughness 3.
Right.
But he has quite a lot of tricks up his sleeve. So his manoeuvrability is boosted to 3 straight away. He's got a special rule called Prismatic Blur. Moves 12 inches in the movement phase. He has the same hollow suit that the other Harlequins have, so he ignores difficult terrain. So that 12-inch movement is guaranteed all the time, no matter what. Obviously, he's got another rule called Blitz, which I'll go on to. Blitz makes his movement potentially even better. That's a bit of a gamble. We'll talk about that when we talk about his utility, I suppose. Firepower, 1. I was going to give him 0, believe it or not. He has no ranged weapons at all, but he can take haywire grenades, so he can have a ranged attack that can take hull points off. So I've given him a 1 because he can throw grenades at Imperial Knights, I suppose, or whatever, and drop a hull point up.
But he does have to buy that for 5.
Yeah, it puts him up for 150 points,
so,
and I think he's already quite expensive.
Yeah.
His assault, however, I have given him top marks for. He
is 5.
Yeah, he is insane.
We have a 5.
His initiative is 10. His weapon skill is 9. Like, this guy is hitting before Demon Princes.
What?
Yep, he's got 6 attacks base, +1 for 2 weapons is 7, +1 for charging will be 8. Apart from the fact that, you know, he ends up with Furious Charge for strength 4, which kind of lets him down a bit. But he is given a standard of Harlequin's Kiss and a Harlequin's Caress. For those of you who don't know those weapons, a Kiss is simple. 1 dice out of your combat pool.
Yeah.
That is strength 6 AP2.
Right.
The Caress, the rest of the dice pool, any roll to hit of a 6 is an auto wound at AP2. So he has the potential to have a lot of AP2 hits. He has the potential to bring down Wraith Knights on his charge. Even more importantly than that, so you can upgrade into a relic called Kegaroth's Rose or something like that. It gives him like Mastercrafted and Shred, I think, as well. So reroll failed to wounds. If you blitz, we'll talk about blitz now. If you blitz him, you call that at the beginning of your turn with him. And what happens is you trade in his normal movement for the turn number, that many dice. So you call it on turn 5, he can move 5d6 in the movement phase, right?
Sorry, what?
Yeah. It's this big block of writing. So he can do 5d6 movement. He ignores all terrain in that movement. He essentially runs over it and round it. He's faster than the eye can see. In a turn in which he blitzes, and does his 5d6 move, his attacks characteristic, his base attacks characteristic is increased to 10.
10 attacks.
Which means with 2 hand weapons is 11, on the charge is 12. 12 attacks, where 6 is an auto wound at AP2, one of them is strength 6 AP2. You give him the Rose, which is the relic, and he's got shred, so he's rerolling failed to wounds. He's pretty disgustingly fast and deadly. He's fearless. He has, we've mentioned his toughness 3, so his survivability is actually still a 3. Now, it could be a 4 when you compare it to other infantry models to a point, but he's still only toughness 3. I have to base this on our whole chart. Yes. So against the rest of the codex, he'd probably be a 4, but against the rest of the 40k universe, he's still got to be a 3. He's still only toughness 3. He's got 3 wounds. He has got Eternal Warrior.
And he has got 3+ invulnerable.
Yeah, so his invulnerable is better. So it is better than everybody else in this codex, but it's not game-breakingly survivable.
I suppose, looking at this, once he's in combat, he's a beast, but he has to try and kill them before.
If you can get him there.
But that's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
If you can get him there. And what's the best way to get him there? Is it by using a Shadowseer to help him get there?
A tactic I've seen with him quite a lot. I don't know if it works. I've not fielded one myself, so I will find out. I'm in the process of painting. People genuinely hold them in their deployment zone behind cover. On his own.
Hold a Solitaire just on the back.
Just hold him there, yeah. And they'll wait till a turn, normally 4 or 5, and blitz him.
Oh, because you can do the massive dice roll.
Pick a target.
Right, that's fantastic.
Of course, that works until you roll 4 1s, and he just jumps over the wall and stays there.
Yeah. But so can he can't move. Instead of moving normally. I was going to say if you move 12 and then roll the dice. But
no.
You don't do that.
Which also means if you roll the dice and you get less than your 12, you're moving less than your 12.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So there is a bit of a gamble there. I think it's a really cool rule.
It's a very cool rule. And I mean, he's a fantastic model as well. He looks cool.
Yeah. And his Haywire Grenade's quite reliable with Ballistic Skill 9. It's not going to scatter very far ever. So he's cool. He's a cool model. He's got some cool rules. His utility is only a 2, like the rest of them, because he's got a crap ton of special rules, but they only benefit himself. So with our chart, he's not a force multiplier.
Yeah.
He only looks after himself. He only benefits himself.
Yeah.
I think he's a model that people will be fearful of, and you kind of want multiple threats with Harlequins. They're quite fragile. They're quite cheap. The more you can flood the board with, if you can, the more the enemy has to remove, the more likely I think to be quite successful. So his overall rating is only a 14.
Same.
Which is the same as the Shadowseer.
I suppose it's how you use it though, isn't it?
I think he's a big risk.
Okay.
140 to 160 odd points.
For something that could actually be shot down.
It could fall apart quite quickly. Yeah.
I mean, you just shoot him with some bolt guns. He's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not difficult.
He's not game breaking. I don't think. He's cool model. He's not game breaking.
Yeah.
The next unit is my favourite in the codex. I think these are the strongest unit.
Yeah, I've played against these. Darren fielded some of these.
I think they're brilliant.
I thought they were brilliant. And I think if you could take quite a few of these, it'd be really nice.
And conveniently, there's a nice formation to take them on their own.
Is there?
Yeah, which is really cool.
Is that in this codex?
I think it's the one you've just seen. Oh, actually, they're not on their own. I lied to you. There's Voidweavers with them as well.
Oh,
but that rule makes them quite nice. So you have to take a unit of Voidweavers. You just take one. They're not expensive. But you get 2 units of Skyweavers, which are the jet bikes we're about to talk about. And essentially, you get reroll Jinx.
Which is basically like being a Raven Wing.
Yeah, kind of. But so Raven Wing actually rely quite heavily on firepower. Eldar jet bikes, when they jink, they rely quite heavily on scatter lasers and shuriken cannons and such. These guys, they have decent, really good firepower weapons, which I'll go on to. But if you jink, you don't care. They want combat if you fit them with the right kit.
Yeah.
They can get pricey. 100 points base for 2 isn't terrible. It makes them, I think, personally quite balanced when compared to 3 scatter bikes for 81 points.
Yeah.
That's too cheap for what they can do. Their maneuverability is top notch, 5 straight away. It's an Eldar jet bike. You don't get better than an Eldar jet bike.
Basically, Eldar jet bike was the benchmark.
That's the ballpark.
The benchmark for 5 out of 5.
So you're 12-inch move, ignoring terrain. You obviously have to take dangerous terrain tests. No, you don't. Hollow suits, maybe you don't. That'd be interesting.
I'll quickly check that.
So you're at 12-inch move, you can ignore terrain as jet bikes can. You choose not to shoot, you can have a 36-inch turbo boost. When that comes to objective grabbing games, they're insanely fast. I think you've probably seen on the channel a couple of times, if you've watched him, my jet bikes, does Darren fielded jet bikes on the channel yet?
I think he has.
Really good at stopping shooting and going and getting objectives all game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, brilliant. And obviously, if you don't use your turbo boost and you do decide to shoot, they then have a 2d6 free assault move without having to actually charge anything. So it keeps them quite quick.
Holosuits, by the way, are just a 5+ invulnerable.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah. Flip belts is what I was thinking. I don't have those. No, okay, so ignore me. So yeah, the manoeuvrability is the best you can get. Is 5. Yeah. All Eldar jet bikes will be at 5. Their firepower 3, average to good. They have they have shuriken cannons across the board. So if they'd have been definitely AP2 or 3, it would have been a 4.
Shuriken cannon.
Yeah. Strength 6, AP5. Shuriken cannons are fitted as part of the Skyweaver jet bike kit.
I see.
So there's Strength 6, AP5 are Bladestorm. There is a potential for AP2, but it's not guaranteed, so I can't give it a 4. They can, for I think 5 points per model, exchange it for a haywire cannon, which is really nice, because one of the things I think Harlequins lack is anti-tank type capabilities. Okay. So the ability to take loads of haywire cannons is really smart. However, the problem being, the second you jink, the haywire cannons are blast. So it becomes pointless. At 10 points per haywire, 5 points per haywire cannon, if you're going to waste it by then jinking, you might as well not bothered. Yeah. So the firepower's good.
I have a feeling we're going somewhere interesting with this.
Assault is up to 5.
What?
Yeah.
So we got 2 5s on one unit.
The Harlequins assault. If you can get them there at full strength, they are catastrophic. Yeah. So
why have we got 5?
They are weapon skill 5. They're initiative 6. So they're going to hit most things in the game first. They're going to hit a lot of standard, if not some special things on 3s with weapon skill 5. They have 3 attacks base per jet bike. Now the reason why I've given them 5. It's because of the Zephyr Glaive. So without the Zephyr Glaive upgrade, which is 10 points per model, maybe they'd be a 4. But the Zephyr Glaive is kind of like a lance type weapon. So on the charge, it gives them +1 strength and AP2. So with Furious Charge, that gives them strength 5, AP2 on the charge. So your wounding Terminators on 3s, ignoring armour, that means that they can start taking on very elite units, and they're striking first, initiative 6, and they gain hit and run. So they can come out of combat and charge back in. When they lose their charge, they drop one of their strengths because they lose Furious Charge. They keep the +1 strength from the weapon, but they then gain AP3, so they're still not terrible. Some weapons, they gain AP2 or 3 on the charge and then they lose it. They keep their AP3 at least. So you can really, really hurt units of Space Marines. Now, a minimum squad of 2 with 3 attacks each is 8 attacks on the charge at weapon skill 5, initiative 6. I think they're really hard hitting, really, really hard hitting. That's without even taking into account Hammer of Wrath. So I really like them. I think they're really, really good units for combat.
Do we have? Do we do their survivability?
Yeah. So the survivability is a 3. They only have a 4+ armor save, which is obviously worse than normal Eldar jet bikes. Yeah. And our benchmark for a level 3 was 3-up armor.
Basically, Space Marine.
Yeah, but so the reason why I went for a 3 though is because although they've only got a 4-up save, they also have a 4-up Jinx save should they choose to.
Which is rerollable.
Which can be rerollable in the formation, and they have a thing called Mirage Launchers. Now,
and they have Holosuits, which is 5+ invulnerable.
Yes, they have a 5+ invulnerable as standard. They have a 4-up Jink, 4-up armor, and they have Mirage Launchers. All Eldar Harlequin vehicles gain Mirage Launchers. What they are essentially, once per game, you can fire Mirage Launchers off if you're chosen as the target of a shooting attack, and they gain a 4+ invulnerable save for the duration of that shooting phase. Obviously, it's once per game, so you're normally going to pop them on turn 1. But it works instead of a Jink. So instead of you suffering the penalty of jinking, you pop your Mirage Launchers, you still have a 4+ save, and you don't have to suffer the penalty for shooting in the next turn, which is quite nice. Oh, also, they're Eldar jet bike with 2 wounds. So although they're toughness 4, which isn't great, they have got 2 wounds. So anything less than strength 8 is only going to take a wound off. Cool. Their utility is only a 2. They've got some special rules they're only for themselves. Hit and run is really nice with these guys. Yeah. Because you can slam in, pull out, and then you slam back in with your AP2 attacks again.
So overall?
Overall, they're at an 18. They are my unit of the book, to be honest. I think they're the best unit on their own, without formations. I think they're probably the best unit in the book. Okay. For all-round capability, they've got good firepower, they've got good assault, they're fast as hell. Yeah. They're more survivable than a lot of the normal characters and stuff. So.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So moving on to the Starweaver, and we saw a minute ago that there was a formation that involved the Starweaver with those
Voidweaver.
Sorry. Oh, was it the Voidweaver?
Yeah. So the Starweaver is the Harlequin's transport. Maneuverability is high. It's a fast skimmer. It's not Elder jet bike levels of speed, but it's the next best, so it's a 4. They can move 12 inches in the movement phase. They can move flat out another 18 inches, being a fast skimmer. So they still have 30-inch move a turn, which is good. They are, however, paper thin, but we'll go on to that. Obviously, being a fast skimmer, they can move 12 inches and still fire their main weapon, which is quite nice, which goes on nicely to their firepower. It's only a 3. They have shuriken cannons. They have 2, which is good. Not a bad number of shots for a transport vehicle. Strength 6 AP5 of Bladestorm, as I've said, and your pseudo rending is quite nice. It's not terrible, but they can't upgrade it. There's nothing special, and they're never guaranteed the AP2, so it stays at only a 3. Their assault, so it's a vehicle. So I was going to go with 0, but they are a transport vehicle that is open topped. So I've given it a 1.
Okay.
Just kind of because you're going to normally expect to see this full of a squad full of players. So although it can't assault, it provides the ability to assault. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I've given it 1 because if something's going to charge it, normally you're probably going to have a squad of players getting out and charging you back. Survivability is, unfortunately for these guys, the same as the other vehicle we'll go on to, is only a 2. They are so flimsy. They're 2 hull points and armour 10 all round, and they're open topped. Yeah. But you have to sneeze near these things and they'll probably blow up.
It does have hollow fields. Is that a 5+ invulnerable?
Hollow fields is a 5+ invulnerable as standard.
I don't know if it's Dark Eldar players in general, but it seems that they tend to make a lot of 5+ saves. So 5.
Lee,
5.
No, I can go up from a 2, but even 5+ hollow fields I don't think is good enough to save 1 failed save from a strong weapon, and they'll blow up because they're open topped. Yeah, they are. They can. Utility is a 2. They've got fear for a vehicle, which is nice. But more importantly, they are the only way at the moment, if you go mono Harlequins, that you can transport your evil space clowns around the board. You have nothing else. This is the only way to do it if you don't want to put them on foot. I'd like to put it up at a 3 for that very reason. However, its transport capacity is 6 models.
Right.
So your minimum squad size for a troop is 5. So if you want to put a Death Jester and a Solitaire in a squad of players, can't get in it. Too many people.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't understand that. I don't understand why you'd have squads of 5 that can be increased to sort of 10, 12 models, whatever, and added. You have their formation allows you to have something like 8 elite choices or something stupid like that.
Right.
Or is it 6 elite choices? But you wouldn't be able to attach them to one squad and put them in transport. It doesn't seem to make sense, but that's a decision. It's only a small little skimmer. Maybe it's fluffy, I don't know. So the utility's only down at 2, which gives them an overall rating of 12 out of 25, which is the lowest in the codex. But just to be fair, all it's going to be used for at 70 points is transporting clowns around, really. So it depends. I've got 3 on order. They're coming through. They should be very soon because I think they're going to be very helpful. And I'm actually quite tempted to use them as gunboats for cannons.
Yeah.
And use them as rush-in and objective grabbing, because I think bigger squads of Harlequins with Shadowseers in is more important to me with the fleet and move through cover and all that stuff. And the formation I'm taking, which I'll go on to, that has a special rule which is very important as to why I'll probably leave them out the transports. I think it's better used for other things, but they are their only transport, so not bad, not great. The Voidweaver.
Oh, can we just have a quick break?
Yeah, all right.
I just want to grab a beer.
All right, you want to grab us a beer?
Yeah, do you want a beer?
Yeah, have one more.
Do you mind if I text girls whilst we do this?
Oh, why would I mind?
Good. So, Voidweaver.
You know girls?
Yeah, I've talked to a girl before. Anyway, come on.
Yeah, so
that's my sister. Fucking shit on the dick.
No. Right,
okay, you go.
So Voidweaver is the only heavy support choice, apart from it's not very heavy. It's not terrible, although I have rated it as the worst unit in the codex.
The Voidweaver is the worst unit in the codex?
Yeah, so...
How come?
I don't know how this really fits into the codex as a unit. Now I've just got the Death Mask box set. I will be building the formation. I have to build one of these. The formation that I'm taking in this codex, I have to have a heavy support choice. All I've got is Voidweavers, so I'm going to have to field them. And I think they kind of needed to put that in there because I don't think otherwise anybody would use them.
I just realised
we're at the end of the units.
We're on the last unit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, so Darren and I have spoke about this before. I think they were intended as an allied force
I thought
to Eldar or Dark Eldar.
I thought you were going to say comparing penis sizes.
Not
You
really.
went down.
Not much of
No?
a competition.
True.
So
I just completely threw you off, didn't I?
So yeah, a little bit. So I thought they were meant as allies. I thought that was the idea of them. I then read their good and decent formations and detachments, and there's such a heavy tax that really they don't work as allies, which is interesting. So I think actually, arguably, they're better as a standalone force.
Okay, that's an interesting.
So the Voidweaver, we'll bang through his numbers because I think he's pretty crap. He's got a 4 for his Maneuverability. He's a fast skimmer, same as the one above. I won't go into it too much. We just talked about the Starweaver for long enough. His firepower, his is up at a 4. It's the best firepower unit the book has got. I still don't think it's amazing, but it's the best. So he has, as standard, a haywire cannon, which isn't terrible. He's got an aft-facing shuriken cannon, which can fire behind it and fire at a separate target. Arguably, it can only fire at units in its aft arc, and really you don't want to be pushing it that far forward. So it arguably is useless. And it's also got an underslung shuriken cannon, so you've got a decent scope of weapons there. You can, for minimal points, I think it's only 5, yeah, you can upgrade the haywire cannon to a prismatic cannon, which is kind of like a mini fire prism. He doesn't even care. So its prismatic cannon is like a mini fire prism, but it's not that great. I think it's a strength 7 AP2 lance shot. You can have a strength 3 AP4 large blast. Not terrible if you're facing guardsmen and such, but...
Yeah, who plays guardsmen now?
Yeah, well...
Meta. Meta.
So, and then there's a strength, what is it? I think it's a strength 5 AP3 small blast.
Right, which one's mine? That one?
Whichever one smells like feces.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. So he has access to AP2 and 3 firepower. He has access to an AP2 lance shot. He has access to haywire. So it's good. It is good. But 0 on assault, nothing, nada. Survivability is still only a 2. With hollow fields, jink, and armor 10, and still only 2 hull points. So again, a stiff breeze, and it will probably fall over. And the utility is just a 1. It's got fear, which means its overall is 11. Honestly, if I didn't have to take them, I wouldn't. I don't think they're that great. They're very pretty models, you know. I think so. You know, lovely looking, but then all the Eldar stuff is quite nice looking. If they're watching, they look like the type of girls that will be watching.
1.5% of our audience are female.
So John's been raging about tactics videos for like 2-3 weeks now, and this is how long it's taken him to get bored. Oh, is swipe left, yes or no? I don't know.
Start a new series of videos.
Yeah.
The Tinder, and it's just John with his phone
You
going.
can only swipe left if you
judging.
think she plays.
No, swipe right, mate.
Oh, is that what that
Maybe,
means?
Yeah. So I'm saying no to these.
I'm a married man.
You're
You're saying no to these? You're fussy.
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, I'm a married man.
I am quite fussy. Anyway, sorry, moving on.
Yeah, so we've done the units now. That was down at 11.
Cool.
So is there going to be like a whole table system behind us? Or
maybe, if I can be bothered.
Which is probably a no, looking at what you've been doing.
If I can be bothered!
At last.
Right, so are we going to talk through these formations? Just have a little
Yeah,
chat
I think
about
we should. I don't think it does any harm.
So, Sagorak's Revenge.
Segarak or Kegarak? Darren will probably tell you how to say it properly.
Very nice.
I don't know which one it is. It's either Segarak or Kegarak, depending on who you speak to. So Segarak is the Harlequins' god. He is the laughing god. He's arguably the only survivable god of the Eldar race. So when Slaanesh was born and burst into reality, I think most of the gods are rumoured to have been wiped out. Segarak was supposedly the only one that remained.
There's another, I've referenced this a few times.
Yeah.
Darren's showcase video, he goes into a little bit of depth about some fluff in Harlequins. He mentions this.
He's all over it.
It is really interesting.
He is all over it.
And that's part of the lore I want to do, because this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is some cool
and
stuff.
with the new Death Mask box, they're pushing the fluff on for Harlequins. They're pushing,
really? Okay.
They're pushing the fluff on in 40k in general. So hopefully we're going to have even more material to work with. Anyway, this is their biggest formation. This is you need to take this as a standalone army type formation. Essentially, it takes their detachment, which is called a mass detachment, and it fills every slot.
That's what she said.
I was waiting. You have 3 units of troops. You have 3 Death Jesters, 3 Shadowseers, a Solitaire, 2 units of Skyweaver jet bikes and 1 unit of Voidweavers. Obviously, with the 3 troop choices, you can take the Starweaver transports.
Okay.
So it is basically everything in the codex crammed into one formation. Special rules are really nice. The first one, you can reroll all invulnerable saves of a 1 for the whole formation. So you've got 5 up across the board, 4 up if you activate your Mirage launchers and throw up for the Solitaire. Any rolls of a 1 you can reroll. Makes the Solitaire arguably even more survivable than the 3 I've given him.
Yeah, it does.
The next rule is the standard. You can reroll your Warlord trait, as happens with every big formation. Boring. And the last one is a rule that it exists in the detachment and a couple of the other formations, Rising Crescendo, which is one of my favourite rules of all time. Essentially,
really?
Oh, I love it. I don't know why. I just think it's because it's really fluffy.
Not that interesting.
Do you not? No, it's not that interesting. But I think it's fluffy, and it gives them something that I think they need. So you've got your 6-inch move, which is not slowed by difficult terrain. It's basically guaranteed. Rising Crescendo means that from turn 2 onwards, you can run and then charge after you've run.
Yeah.
With Fleet, you can re-roll your run and your charge distance.
Yeah.
So you could potentially move
some...
up to 12 inches and then charge up to 12 inches.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're never going to hit those numbers.
Lucky,
you're never going to hit those numbers every time, but you
your
can.
chances are greatly increased, which is what they need because they're an assault army.
If you run the maths, which I can't remember off the top of my head, it increases their distances by sort of 2-3 inches, I think, at least, for what they can gain. And sometimes, ask my wife, the extra 2 inches makes all the difference.
It does, yeah. Yeah, Toby says that as well.
Yeah. So it's nice. It's the one thing I don't like about it is there's very little in the way of making it personal to you because this is what you take.
Yeah.
There is no 0 to 3. There is no 1+. This is what you take. That's it. That's all you've got.
How many points out of interest does this come to?
Many.
You don't know.
Off the top of my head, no. But 3 squads of troops is about 300. 3 Death Jesters is another 180. So that's 480. 3 Shadowseers is another 180, so that's 660. Solitaire is 145, so that's 805. 2 Skyweavers is another 200, so that's 1005, and a Voidweaver is 75, so it's 1080 with no upgrades.
That was incredible.
Knowledge.
I feel a bit sick after that, I'll be honest, because that was so good. Right, moving on, next formation.
Yeah, I don't know this one very well, to be honest, so you can read it.
The Serpent's Brood. So, the formation consists of 3 troops, which are troops choices, 2 units of Skyweavers.
Jet bikes.
Yes.
Oh, I
indeed.
do know this. I apologise.
3 Starweavers.
Which are the
and
transports?
1 unit of Voidweavers.
Yeah, so...
the benefits.
So all of the formation's troops must take one of the formation's Starweavers to get transport. Okay. Emissary of Sagarak is the normal reroll Warlord trait. Yawn, GW, new one please. Sky Stride is a really, really cool rule.
Why?
So essentially, you can move your transport forward with your troop of troops.
Yeah.
They can get out and charge. When you roll your hit and run distance afterwards,
they can get back
if the distance is big enough, you get straight back in the transport.
That's nice.
Yeah, you can also do that for consolidation moves. So if you wipe the enemy unit out or they run away, and you roll your consolidation move big enough, obviously it's a lot less likely than you can get back on the transport. Which I was speaking to someone else. He said that makes them a lot more survivable. And I'm like, well, 1, you've got to be close enough to get back in, and 2, you're more survivable in a 2 hull point armor 10 skimmer. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. It's a cool rule, but again, there is no alteration with that formation. That's what you take.
Yeah.
So if you want anything else, you have to bolt on another formation.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind, there is no HQ in this book, so you cannot bolt on a combined arms attachment. You can't do it. You've got no HQ choice.
Oh God, that's awful, isn't it?
Yeah. This is why, like I said, Darren and I spoke, and you can't take an allied detachment. You have no HQ choice. You can't take a combined arms. You have no HQ choice.
So basically, it seems like they've put unnecessary taxes in here. If they hadn't have taxed you and done a few things that are a bit too rigid.
All they had to do was give you a HQ choice.
Yeah.
Really? Or the thing is, so they did this with Scutari. Scutari have no HQ choice. Right. But their detachment...
They don't need one, do
No,
they?
but their detachment is like a 2 units of troops or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's not very much what you have to take for their detachment, and then you can fill it with whatever you want. So they work really well as allies for Marines, for AdMech, whichever you want to take. But these, even the detachment, which is I think right at the beginning of the book, the detachment is a minimum of 3 troops choices, which you've only got troops, a minimum of 2 fast attack choices, which are your jet bikes, and a minimum of 1 heavy support. So you're basically forced to take the whole codex again. Yeah. And then you get up to 7 elites, and that's it. That's your option. That's what you can take.
Very restrictive.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Cast of players is probably their best one for bolting onto an Eldar force, maybe. I don't know. Only because it's probably the less points intensive. So you take 1 troop of players, you take a Death Jester or Shadowseer, they become 1 sole unit, they can't separate. So the independent characters essentially lose their independent character rule. Now, you're probably going to be looking at hiding things like Death Jesters and Shadowseers in units anyway, for things like Ablative Wounds. And you're going to always want him in a unit as a Shadowseer because you've got that special Primus power. But what they don't gain, if they'd have gained this, if they'd have gained Rising Crescendo, I'd have bolted this onto my Eldar force ages ago.
Oh, really?
Ages ago, because I think it's really good. Death Jester's got cool rules, the Shadowseer's got... I don't think it's tournament breaking, winning sort of power, but it's a cool formation with some cool rules of a hard hitting combat unit, which basically, with the exception of perhaps a Wraith Knight, Eldar suffer with, especially when there is no transport for them, obviously.
However, all it's really doing is, all it currently does, Heralds of the Laughing God, is 6 inches for Dark Eldar and Eldar, gives them Crusader. What is even Crusader? Don't know.
I can't remember what a Crusader is.
Something with close combat, I believe.
No, I think it was to do. Was it not to do a run?
I honestly can't remember.
We'll find out and then probably not tell you. So Segrak's Jest. It's the same with all the formations. 1 troop, 1 Skyweavers, 1 Voidweavers unit. This is quite nice as a bolt-on allied force. This is about as good as it gets, I think, as an allied force, because you get Rising Crescendo, which is the same from their main detachment, and the same from their main formation, the big one that had all the models in. That's from turn 2 onwards you can run and charge. Helps them out get across the board. It's not terrible. You've got that Voidweaver tax in there again, which otherwise I'd be all over it. The Voidweaver puts me off that 1 formation as an allied force.
Yeah.
Obviously the troop can take a transport Starweaver, but there is no Shadowseer, Death Jester, any of that gubbins, which are really cool models, and they add an aspect to the force which, this is what I'm saying, as 1 big formation, you can put them all together, and they kind of work off of each other. The Death Jester can bring things towards them, the Shadowseer keeps everyone kind of protected. The Shadowseer's powers are really cool. It's got other stuff, like it's got like a kind of pseudo-invisibility, but you cast that on a unit rather than cast it on yourself, and then they can only snap fire and stuff. So you can really limit people. And there's a combination, which I'll go into, which is filth. You need so many multipliers to get this thing off. Right. But if it gets off, it's unbelievably powerful. We'll go on to that in a minute.
I'm excited to hear it. Don't forget that.
No, I won't. I've been telling people about it. It's disgusting. Hero's Path, one of my favourites.
This looks cool. In fact, can I just take a moment to say, this whole codex...
Beautiful, isn't it?
They are some of the best looking models in 40k.
Yeah.
They really are fantastic.
If you haven't got them and you want to, the troop kit, the plastic kit, is amazing to build. It is incredible. I've got 18 of the guys so far.
They're just fantastic. The only problem I see with them is that they look like they require a lot of skill. And when I've seen them painted to the level I've seen them painted to, genuinely, the level that Darren's miniatures are painted to are higher than some of the ones in this book.
When mine are painted, I'm working on them now to bring them to the channel to play them, because Darren won't. When they're painted, I will be knocking that out of focus. Because there's no way out. It's not that. I don't think they'll be that bad. It's just I want to do the diamonds because I think it's traditional.
Oh, it looks so good.
And I won't be at Darren's level.
No, not many people are.
No.
But yeah, the whole codex looks incredible. If this was a more beefed out codex, like if it had more options and had more units, it would just be interesting to see more models based around the Harlequins, because they look incredible.
Yeah.
Like, they have a really cool feel. But I think you'd see.
And actually, if you jump on Google, there's some people out there that have done conversions of things like Wraith Knights, to Harlequin.
Really?
Mate, some of them are stunning, absolutely stunning models. Amazing stuff that people have done.
Nice.
Wraith Lords and such as well.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, I suppose you could ally an Elder Craftworld force to your Harlequins and paint them all Harlequins, and you would maybe give yourself a bite that you haven't got from this book.
Nice. Yeah.
And you could kind of, but there's been codexes in the past. When the Necron Codex first came out, it didn't have that many units. It's now got loads. So there's hope. You never know. Anyway.
Cast of players.
Cast of players is 1 Solitaire, 1 Death Jester, 1
Shadowseer.
Shadowseer, thank you. Really cool formation.
Did we get that right?
Huh?
1 Troupe, 1 Death Jester, 1 Shadowseer.
Yeah, we've done this one. Sorry, not cast of players.
What are we talking about?
Just spoke about this. We're talking about Heroes Path. 1 Shadowseer, 1 Death Jester, 1 Solitaire.
That one.
So really cool. All the cool models. I really like this. I don't know how good it's going to be. Solitary Path is the unit formation rule. It sounds rubbish. They are not independent characters. They cannot join or be joined by anything ever. They work on their own independently. Not as a group of 3, on their own, independently. Yeah. But every single one gains Shrouded Stealth and Infiltrate. So you're talking 2 up cover when you're in cover.
Goes up,
yeah, the resilience increases massively as a single model, but there's no ablative wounds.
However, with the Death Jester, is it not an idea? How long was the range on his weapon?
24.
That's not that great. But if you had a piece of scenery in the middle of the table, which you're going to have on most boards, that's not like a specific thing.
He still has 2 up cover, 5 up invulnerable, plonked in the middle of the board with his gun, which can frighten people.
Quite nice.
You can get them to fail morale checks and come towards you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leadership shenanigans, especially with Eldar, Dark Eldar and Harlequins combined. So you can also drop unit leaderships before you even fire that weapon.
How do you do that? Darren's done that to me before. I've forgotten how he
done
did it.
What? We're talking game still or?
2,
well,
mate.
yeah.
2.
Well, you know.
He minus my leadership with something. I can't remember what it was.
There's loads.
Then he did
so
that.
there's a just Harlequins, pure Harlequins?
It's Harlequins and Eldar.
Right, so just Harlequins. There's a relic called the Mask of Sorrows or Secrets or something. That's minus 2 leadership to anything within 12 inches, full stop.
You go.
Done. You take a Hemlock Wraith Fighter from the Eldar Codex. That's minus 2 leadership to anything within 12 inches. Done. There's a power in the Eldar Craftworld's book called Horrify, which is minus 3 leadership. There's Terrify from Telepathy, which is minus 1 leadership. You get these powers off, you can be dropping people by up to and including 8 leadership at least. And there's other stuff as well, which I haven't. I think there's Dark Elder one that auto drops leadership as well, but I can't remember. So this is really cool. They're cool models. We know the Solitaire, he works on his own anyway, so what you gain from him is a model that's going to be on his own no matter what, but gains Infiltrate, Shrouded and Stealth, which is really cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the Shadowseer and his ability to cast that Primaris on himself, I think will still be a pain in people's backside.
It creates some MSU in there. Like, with my Ravenwing list, there are some squads, but a majority of the squads are just 3-man squads.
Yeah.
And they tend to last quite long because you don't know if you shoot an entire squad at one model and it doesn't kill it, or if it does kill it, you've wasted firepower.
Yeah, I agree.
It creates more targets.
But so this is where I would like to do my trick, if I can get it to work. Right. It's going to be rare. So you slap the Mask of Secrets on him.
Mm-hmm. This is the minus leadership one, right?
The minus 2 leadership for all models within 12 inches. You give him level 2 and you roll on Phantasmancy. Jesus, 2 beers. Yeah, well. So the bonus, the risk is you may not roll this power, but number 6 on the Phantasmancy tree is called Mirror Minds or Mirror of Minds. Unbelievably good power if you can get all the cogs working at once. So take a Wraith Knight, arguably the most survivable toughness-based creature in 40k, probably, without going Forge World. He's leadership 10. You need to drop his leadership to 5 with this power. If you take the mask, it's down to 8 already. Yep. You get a Hemlock within range, you're down to 6. All you need is Horrify or Terrify from Telepathy or Runes of Battle in range, and you'll drop it to that 5 or less. You then cast Mirror of Minds. Now, I've spoken about this with Darren, and obviously there's a lot of variables here. You get it off, the Wraith Knight comes off the board. So Mirror Minds, each player rolls a dice and adds the unit's leadership. So the Shadowseer's leadership is 10.
Right.
So the minimum you can get is 11. If you can drop a Wraith Knight to 5, the maximum he can get with a 6 on the dice is 11.
Oh, right,
5.
okay.
So the rule states that if the Eldar player the Harlequin player beats the enemy, the enemy suffers a wound with no armor or cover saves allowed.
Yeah.
If the score is a tie or a draw, no, sorry, or a draw, I think it is, or he beats it. Yeah, no, if it's a draw or he beats it, there's a wound. If the
Harlequin player wins.
If the Harlequin player loses,
Right.
power stops.
Right.
But if you've dropped him to leadership 5, he physically cannot beat you ever.
Yeah.
So then you keep taking wounds. The power continues until either the model is slain or the opposing player wins the roll-off.
Oh, you keep rolling.
Yeah, you keep going. So if your opposing player can't win that roll-off, physically can't win it because you've dropped his leadership enough, you just keep dropping wounds until he's gone.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So you can, I mean, obviously that's an extreme circumstance because with leadership 10, you do need to take 5 off them for it to work. Obviously, leadership 8 or 9, you don't need that. Your likelihood of beating them until the thing's dead is quite high. So it's a really nice formation. And with infiltrate, you're putting them in range of that thing really fast.
Yeah.
But that's an aside. It's a really random tactic. It's not competitive. I just think it's really fun.
That is really cool.
And then we've got Falchi's Blade, which you spoke about, which is a Voidweaver and jet bikes, 2 units of jet bikes, and that gives you your reroll to Jink. If you load your jet bikes up with the Zephyr Glaives for combat, you're going to probably want to Jink anyway because you keep them alive longer. You get rerolled, and we've seen with your Ravenwing on the channel what reroll and Jink does. Excuse me. So yeah, I think that's quite a cool power in itself. Quite cool formation in itself.
Yeah,
sorry.
that to me, looking at this, that's the coolest formation to me. I like bikes.
Well, it takes 2 of the units that I think, maybe you disagree, are the strongest units in the book.
And then gives them some benefits.
Yeah, and then makes them tougher.
It's nice. It's really nice.
And let's face it, the one thing Harlequins suffer with is survivability, I think, across the board. Even with that invulnerable everywhere, I still think they suffer with survivability.
Yeah.
So that makes them really good.
With formations and allied detachments, to take an allied detachment, you can just take a little detachment like this, can't you?
Yeah, so a formation...
So you could just take Falchi's Blade.
Yeah, a formation is a detachment in itself. Yeah. And an army is composed of however many detachments you want.
Looking at this, the easiest, nicest formation to take as a little allied thing to an Eldar or a Dark Eldar force is this formation.
Probably. Although you do see... I've seen quite a few heroes pass, but they're not quite so competitive. Yeah. If you're talking... beefing your army up and making it stronger, these.
Like a same height.
Simhan? You're in like the type of list I may be building?
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, that's all falling into place. If you had that sort of list and you added this, that is cool.
Yeah, and for the fluffy players, if they're still watching...
Don't watch.
It's kind of fluffy because they're all on bikes and the Voidweaver's a skimmer. And it gives you, in a Simhan list, where I'm going to be dropping that Wraith Knight, it gives a bit of combat prowess in there as well, which is quite nice. And
that's it, we've reached the end.
We've reached the end apart from weapons. I've basically covered all the weapons though.
We've covered them all, to be fair. I think in general, it's a really nice codex, isn't it?
It's a lovely book. The artwork is stunning. The painting guide is great as well. I've got that at home.
Yeah, Darren's recommended that painting guide as well.
Yeah, I'm just starting to use it, so we'll see. But there's also on Warhammer TV, there's a painting guide just gone up as well from Duncan Rhodes, which looks really good, really quite helpful. Because I'm massively intimidated by painting those diamonds, but why wouldn't you, the Harlequins?
It just looks like it's going to be time consuming. That's the only thing that worries and scares me.
So I've only got a wife and child, so... Divorce!
Yay!
More time for videos!
Yeah. That's dedication, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they're a strong force.
Yeah.
I think they would be better as an allied force, but I don't think they work as an allied force. If that kind of makes sense. Yes. Maybe you'll follow me, I don't know. I just think that the book is pushing you more towards mono Harlequins as a force.
Okay. Very cool. Sweet. Is there anything else we want to say about the Harlequins?
I don't know. If there's anything else people want to hear, they can ask us.
Yeah, ask.
So we've touched on the psychic powers. We've not covered all of them. I won't cover. There's 3 boxes for warlord traits because it's all fluff based, whether you're light, twilight, or dark. It's a grind to get through. Well, to be fair, there's only 12 warlord traits in total because the first 3 in each box are the same and the next 3 are all different. But we don't need to go in that for tactical power because the thing is with warlord traits and psychic powers, that's randomly generated. Yeah. So for just rating a unit on power, I don't think we can really go on randomly generated powers or traits. Yeah. So I think we've covered basically all of it.
Very cool. If you guys want to see stuff though, please let us know. Yeah. We could do another video and all
I could talk for hours.
I didn't realise how good you were at this. I really enjoyed that, and I think that there's a lot we can talk about with other codexes and stuff. But if you guys do have ideas about the format and stuff you want to hear, be specific. Just say it, and we'll try and incorporate
only
it.
a tiny codex when you compare it to
admittedly
something like that.
Admittedly, that's going to be harder, and you might go through that in a different sort of format. However, still interesting to hear your point of view, and if it's not a shit idea, we might use it.
5 beers, it's all it took.
Start abusing the fans.
Watch the subscribers go down now.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
I'm joking, I love you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. As per usual, make sure you check out Battle Reports, showcase videos. I've mentioned several times Darren's Harlequin one. It's really specific to this video, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Put a link in the...
I am going to.
Yeah.
I'm going to do after this, where there's the little screen and there's the 2 previous videos.
Oh, I don't get that far, I turn it off by then.
There's a Harlequin, there'll be a Harlequin, you can click on that if you're on desktop. If you're not, you can't. So thank you very much. If you guys can subscribe, as I said, leave comments and like, that's fantastic. And we'll just see you soon, hopefully for another Tactics video.
Give us a shout if there's one you'd like to see next, perhaps.
Yes, as well.
And if we've got it, we'll do it. We haven't quite got all of them yet. There's a collection growing. So.
Yeah, give us a shout. Cheers, guys.